Hey everyone, what's going on? My name is Tyler. Welcome to my first ever Sims 4 speed build video. I'm super hyped to be showing this to you guys. I love these things. I'm hopelessly stuck in coronavirus quarantine at my mom's house. I got nothing to do. I've watched 30 movies in the past 3 weeks. Watched through all of Tarkovsky's filmography. I watched a 9-hour Japanese movie. What the hell else am I supposed to do with my time? So I've been watching these Sims build videos for ever. I think they're awesome. I think they're super calming. They're so relaxing. They're wonderful. Great way to pass the time. So I figured all right, I got nothing but time. Why don't I try my hand at making one of these, So that's what I did. I built my first ever Sims 4 speed build. This house that I'm working on right here, this is the Von Dreck house. Why is it called the Von Dreck house? Now, watch a lot of these Sims build 4 speed build videos, and I find that a lot of creators, right, are out here, they just are inspired, right? They just build whatever comes to mind. I'm gonna build, I don't know, underwater tropical mansion, modern eco house, whatever. I can't do that. I need some more guidance, right? I need significantly more something to kind of anchor myself to when I'm building this thing. So I figured what I'd do is I would make a sim and then design a house specifically for that person. But I didn't want just any sim. I'm not thinking a cute, nice looking blonde family where the dad is a lawyer and the mom, none of that. No, I wanted someone who would be kind of freaky. I wanted to make an interesting, weird sim with a weird background story and then build him a house, So that's what I did. I designed a sim for myself. His name is Hans Rudolf von Dreck. Let me show you him. Here's my man right here, Hans Rudolf von Dreck. Now, he is this mysterious German art collector, right? He is a million years old, and he rolled up from Germany into whatever country the Sims live in, and just had in tow with him this huge fortune and a bunch of paintings and sculptures and some other works of art, right? And we'll say he moved into this house, whether this house was built for him or it was here already in Willow Creek, and he moved in, whatever, it doesn't really matter. He rolls up and he locks himself inside this house. He is his 3 traits are art lover, obviously, because he's an art collector. It was his job. Let's say he's retired now, whatever. He doesn't really work anymore. Just kind of hangs out at home. He loves to read art books in his free time. He's a loner. He does not like interacting with people. He never leaves his house. Kids ride by on their bikes and they whisper about what a weird dude he is, right? You never hear him talking to anybody. And he lives alone. And the 3rd trait, and here's the catch, here's the fun spooky part, this is what makes him kind of a freak, right, is that he his 3rd trait is erratic, which means that in kind of sim world, it means he speaks to himself, which honestly it's totally normal. People speak to themselves, that's fine. But he claims that he lives not alone but with his first wife, Helma. Now, Helma has been dead for 20 years. She died in Germany. When he rolled up into Willow Creek, she didn't move in with him, right? She was dead, right? But he claims that she still lives in the house with him. What does that mean, right? Is she a ghost? Is she a zombie? Is she buried in the backyard? Is it figurative? Is there an urn of her ashes out of the mantle? I don't know. Actually, I do know. And I will show you in the future. But, so, that's the sim that I made this house for. Hans Rudolf von Dreck. You don't have to play with him, obviously, but it helped me find a guide for how I wanted to build this house. So let's talk about this house. You see me right now putting all the paint on it. The paint takes me a really long time, so you're going to see me skip ahead to sort of intermediary step. But the house is, I intended, a sort of Victorian Gothic style. I don't really know what that means, to be quite honest with you. I know what Victorian means. Victorian Gothic is a little bit more specific for me, but I wanted it to be old. I wanted it to be a little creepy, but definitely kind of homey, I didn't want it to be totally gothic, all black with the pointy roof and the spiky fences and the sort of flourishing spandrels. I wanted it to be definitely a little bit more cozy and less macabre, right? So you see right here, I had that sort of gray situation going on with the black shutters. Too gray for me, too dark. I'm going to try a bunch of different color swatches on all the different parts of this house until I get to the right one. For some reason, I'm super fixated on the accent color green. I think you see right there, those green shutters. That's what was kind of going on my mind. I was thinking about green because I figured he was like, he's from Germany. Maybe he has like an estate in like the foresty area of Germany down, I don't know, in like Bavaria. He kind of, you know, he lives in this massive estate with all of his paintings, and that's where he came from. He's really like, he loves being, you know, surrounded by trees and dark forests and stuff like that. So that's what I was thinking. But then I go for this black and white situation. This is pretty cool, honestly, the black and white situation. I think maybe a black and white build in the future could be really, really cool. I think it looks super classy. I think it looks really like refined, but honestly, it wasn't what I was sort of envisioning for this guy. Because like I said, I wanted this house to be a little bit more like, I don't know, a little bit more cozy, you know? Black and white was too refined, a little too, honestly, it reminded me of the house from Beetlejuice after the Dietzes move in, which, by the way, like, masterpiece of a movie, stunning film. But so we're gonna see me get rid of this in a second, but it is where I got the inspiration to put all of the sort of like black trim around it. You see, I think those are called spandrels, either corbels or spandrels. Those things on the top of the porch, I always get them confused. I think they're called spandrels. I put those sort of, you know, nice like florid black spandrels. I put all of the black columns up on the sides of the on the porch. That's sort of where I get my inspiration for how I want the sort of outside of this house to look. Eventually I do change all the color swatches around. I do keep that gray brick. That gray brick is awesome. I wanted the first floor of the house. This is the one thing I knew about how I wanted to paint it. I wanted the first floor of the house to be a nice, like, solid brick, and then the two turrets would be brick too, because I wanted that like nice, you know, nice solid foundation. And I wanted some variance in the different color of all the walls. Here now you see I'm putting in some of this this trim, I guess you call it. What do you call that? A frieze, right? I try to put in that frieze. It's so fat. It's like, it's not right. It looks like it belongs on like Greek, you know, the Parthenon or something. So I'm gonna get rid of that too. But I do here, this is where it all starts to come together. I get the inspiration from that frieze to use a different trim. You see me put it on right now. It's the green one, right? I told you I was sort of fixated on this idea of green. Start putting it all around the house. Eventually I'm gonna change that one to some dark wood. But right here, you're going to start to see the house really come together. And then I changed the roof. This was like the aha moment for me on this house. For some reason, when I was painting everything, it wasn't coming together. And I totally forgot that I could change the roof color, right? And that would make like a really big difference on how this house looked. And then I found my green, right? I found my muse, my green. I put it up on the roof. I added this sort of like dark brown wood trim. I added this really nice dark brown wood paneling. And this is where I think the house really really gains its quality, right? It's kind of woodsy, it's a little spooky, it definitely looks old, right? It looks kind of like an old person would live here, sort of like an old European rich art recluse kind of person. It's Victorian, definitely, with all of its turrets, its big porch, its big windows. It's definitely still a little creepy, but it's not like gothic, right? It's not like all black. It's not super, you know, macabre. It's nice. I'm really proud of this thing. I think it looks really good. So I'm gonna skip ahead of this part right here. I gotta work a little bit on the Am I gonna skip ahead? No, I lied to you. I left this part in. I'm messing around with the room situation. For some reason, if I don't get the room situation totally right, like all the roofs are gonna clip through. It's gonna get super weird. You see me take some time to figure out how I want to put the windows on this turret. I sort of at first imagined like windows sort of creeping up in like a circle thing, like a spiral around the side. I don't keep that. I couldn't find a way for it to really work. So I do end up putting in those little windows, the teeny tiny ones? Yeah, there they are. I put those in too. I love those little windows. I think they make the house look really, honestly inapproachable. So speaking of inapproachable, right? Like I said, Hans Rudolf von Dreck, the sim that I made this house for, he's super inapproachable, right? He doesn't like leaving his house. People like think he's kind of a weirdo. They like ride past his house and they look at it and they like assume that whoever's inside is like, I don't know, dead, right? He's like a major creep. So I So I built a big wall around it. I knew that I wanted a big wall around it. I wanted it to be hard to get in this house unless, you know, you had a personal invitation. And no one gets a personal invitation to Hans Rudolf von Dreck's house, right? He doesn't have any friends. He doesn't like have any people over. All he hangs out with is his paintings and his sculptures and his, you know, supposedly dead wife Helma. Now you see him adding some of the terrain paint, and I'm gonna start going to some of the landscaping for this house. The landscaping was actually something I was really excited about. I knew about the live edit objects, but I'm not a professional builder. This is my first one of these things, and I always watch builders use these live edit objects. And I was like, these are so cool. Where are they getting these cool trees? Like all these awesome grasses, like the textures look so nice. Like these are going to make my build look so good. Like, where do they find them? And so I was going to the debug menu, and all I could find was freaking the pans with like the raw chicken on them that like is gonna, like, your simmers are gonna throw out because they think it's garbage. And I was like, where are these cool objects? Where are people finding these things? And so I googled it, like any sensible person should have done it first. And what did I find is that like it's a totally different menu. There's the debug items, which is, you know, the raw chicken and like the stacks of books that your Sims can write, and sort of honestly like not useless objects, but like not nearly as cool. And then there's the live edit objects, the ones that the developers use when they're building the world, and it's got these cool vines and these sort of spooky, you know, trees, like that one on the right hand side. My brother, he walked in, he was like, oh damn, this house looks like it's in like Louisiana, because this tree's got all this stuff like dripping off of it. It's pretty cool. So the live edit objects I finally discovered, you know, should have learned about them a long time ago, but they really transform this build, and they make up the majority of the landscaping. A lot of the plants, I would say most of the plants, I would say all of the plants that I put this build are from the live edit menu. You see now I'm working on this chimney. Part of the reason I want to make these videos is because I got big opinions, right? I know exactly what I think builders should be doing in their houses, and sometimes people do not follow my opinions. And so I built this chimney, right? Because you should have a little chimney on your Victorian house. It'll make it look nice and cute and kind of realistic. And then, you know, the animation with the smoke coming out the top is pretty, right? It's great. It makes great screenshots. But what I see a lot of builders do, it drives me crazy, it drives me up a wall, is that they'll put a fireplace in the house with no chimney above it. Like it'll just be like a fireplace against a wall. And it's like, where's the smoke supposed to go? I mean, obviously, like, this is a game, you know, there's no, like, realism. It doesn't matter. The smoke doesn't have to go anywhere. But when you're building a house, like, you would never just put a fireplace with no chimney. It makes no sense where the smoke doesn't go anywhere. So I built a chimney specifically for this purpose. I wanted that sort of, like, architectural realism. So there are two fireplaces in the house, and they're going to be right up against the chimney. The first is going to be on the first floor, in the living room, and the second will be in Von Dreck's study up on the second floor. So now you see I'm working on some of the floor plan, popping in some windows, popping in some archways. Floor plan on the first floor, honestly pretty simple. Pretty tight spaces, like a lot of Victorian houses have. I use the medium wall height because I didn't want it to be too tall, but you know, Victorian houses tend to have really high walls. They tend to have pretty small rooms, so they look pretty big and grand on the outside, but actually inside they're very cozy, or as I intended this space to be, honestly, claustrophobic. I wanted this whole space to feel really, really closed in, so that Von Dreck can sort of, like, you know, what's the word? Coop himself up in his little study, you know, in the little hallways of this house. No wide open spaces here. So now you see I'm popping in some of the different wall textures. It took me a little while to figure out what I wanted to do there, but I knew that I wanted a lot of dark wood is the big thing. I wanted a lot of dark wood because, like I said, I wanted this house to feel really closed in, right? I wanted it to feel a little stately, definitely a little stuffy. I want it to seem like honestly like a morose old person lived there, and so I put in all of these nice like brown wall textures. I liked this dark wood a lot, particularly that that barnyard one, I think it's called, which I think is actually really, really nice. I use it all over the outside of the house. I use the inside of the house. And then on the bottom floor, you'll see in that entryway, the foyer, whatever you want to call it. I really, really like that tile. I think the tile's really, really nice. I think it adds like a nice little, I don't know, like a little like, grandness to this first floor. So now you see I'm gonna start furnishing the house. So the entryway, like I said, Hans Rudolph, who I built this house for, is an art collector. That's sort of, his shtick. So I wanted the first floor of this house, particularly the entryway, to just be like covered floor to ceiling in paintings. I wanted paintings all over. I wanted still lifes and landscapes and portraits. I wanted them going like all the way up the walls, just like covering as much of the sort of the wall space as I could. So that's what I did. You see me put in a bunch of paintings, way more than any single person needs. I like to imagine that this is like the art he brought with him when he came from Europe. All priceless stuff. This is like serious work, The old masters did that nice little like fruit still life, and he's just having it hanging up in his tiny little entryway, right? That's the kind of caliber of art appreciation that this creepy old dude has. You see I put all those green curtains. Like I said, green is going to be sort of, that muted, sort of like foresty green is going to be the green that I work with most of the time. It's the accent color that I just ran with, because for some reason, I don't know, I had a foresty thing going on in my head when I was building this. So I put all those really big curtains. Obviously the windows up the front of the house are pretty big. They're like floor to ceiling, but like I said, I really, really want this house to feel almost like impenetrable, like creepy, like you can't look in, like kind of mysterious. So I thought really big curtains would be the move here. I thought that maybe you could imagine that he shuts these curtains and lets all the natural light out, right? Just kind of lights the candles and keeps a really dim house. Nobody can peek in and see what he's doing. Now I'm working on the dining room. So dining room, pretty simple. I mean, I didn't imagine that he would have any sort of guests going on. He's a super loner, so it's not like you need a really big space for entertaining. And I wanted it to just be kind of like full of tchotchkes, honestly. So I put these little wine bottles. I put that hutch up in the corner. I'm going to move around. I'm going to add another one. That little like shelf thing with a little porcelain pig on it. That globe. I love that little globe. Some candles. I wanted it to just be, as with the rest of the house, I wanted to take a seriously like a maximalist approach. I just wanted it to be like stuffed, cram full of stuff, so that it felt like busy and full, and just to close out the space. Honestly, I didn't want any like single open spaces in this house. I wanted it to feel really, really tight. And so I think adding a bunch of like tchotchkes and paintings all on the walls really like sort of condensed that space and made it feel like, honestly, this dude's sad little art cave. Now you see I'm working on the kitchen. Kitchen is teeny tiny. Kitchen is so small. I think that's fine. Honestly, like, I don't imagine that Hans Rudolph is a big cook. I sort of imagined that he either like has a housekeeper who's gonna come and cook and clean while he's like up in his room hiding away reading his books. Maybe this house was purchased in the past, and the past owner had like a little kitchen that they would cook in, or they would hire help to cook. The kitchen isn't like. Kitchen's not like the heart and soul of this house, right? For eating, entertaining, it's not like a big part of, the lifestyle of whoever's gonna live here. So I figured a small kitchen would be just fine. I do sort of fill this thing with debug clutter. I love the debug clutter. There's the little cookie jar. I put that like box full of oranges just kind of spilling out. I put the things up on the walls, the little, what do you call that? The scale, the little coffee maker, whatever. I wanted this thing to just be like full of clutter, just like the rest of the house. The house is just full of clutter. Like I put so much stuff in this thing. You see right now I'm going through the debug menu. I find these really wonderful. There's the baking tray with the raw chicken. I love that thing. I find a really wonderful little like olive oil bottle that I put up there. It looks like olive oil, or maybe it's like white wine. I don't know. I love that little thing. It's a great little piece to like pop on your shelf. I find some of those mixing bowls and saucepans, and I sort of like stack them on top of each other, so it looks like, you know, that's where there's the bottles, right? So that's like the storage area. I don't know if your Sims will try to put those away, because I know that sometimes when you like leave out cooking stuff, they'll just automatically go and clean it. Hopefully they don't do that, because I like those things there. I put the plates there too. Yeah, I hope that they don't put those things away, but you never know. I did playtest this thing, and I never had, you know, Hans try to go around and clean up the house or anything. So I think they're safe, but who can ever be sure? There's that little breakfast nook too. Breakfast nook is fine. I did intend for sort of more like formal situations all the time. Hans Rudolph is the kind of person who just like is super formal and like weirdly formal in all of his interactions. He has to sit at the dining table while he's eating his like cereal or whatever. But there's a cute little breakfast nook. If you have some Sims in this house and you got like a nice family, I think that'll be a really nice spot to hang out, honestly. So now you see I'm adding just a little bit more texture on the outside of the house. I add some columns. I add some more of that like wall trim that I really, really like. Change the wall over there by the hutch to that sort of like paneling that I use all over the place. And now I'm going to jump in to the living room, correct? Yeah, first finish the work on the chimney, and then no, okay, never mind. We're still doing more floor plan stuff. We're up in the attic now doing some floor plan stuff. We'll come back to the attic at the end. That's an important place of the house. Now we're at the living room. All right, so this is kind of it's a weird space. It's just like really long and thin. So how I sort of figured I would do it is I would tier it, right? I would have like 3 tiers. The first tier is this one with that fireplace and the bookshelves and that portrait that looks like the Joanna Newsom album cover, that urn up on the mantle. I like to imagine that maybe that urn is full of Helma's ashes, right? Maybe that's what he means when he says she lives with him. I don't know. I use those nice big leather chairs. I love those little sort of like leather-bound books. Those are really cool. I wanted books all over this place, by the way. Hans Rudolph, he's an art lover, but he's not an artist by any means. He's not a creative type. He doesn't paint. You'll notice there's no like easels or anything in the house. He doesn't sculpt. He doesn't even do that like wood whittling that I know your Sims can do, the debug sculptures that you can make. But I did imagine that he's like really into art books. You know, those sort of like those giant coffee table books that you buy at like the MoMA, right? They cost like $60, and they have these giant, enormous glossy pages, these really pretty pictures of paintings. I'd like to imagine that he spends the majority of his day flipping through those enormous books. You know, I actually was really inspired to do this build by a picture of a book of Russian icons that I saw. And I thought, like, all right, who's going to be like, what kind of where would we put that kind of book, right? Who's going to be reading that book? I thought, I don't know, like an old European art collector would be reading that book. All right, well, let's build him a house, right? And then I wanted it to be kind of freaky. I didn't just want him to be like a nice little German art collector. I wanted him to have that sort of like weird backstory with his supposedly alive dead wife. So I popped that one in too. You'll see that later. But yeah, so I fill this place with books. I've got books all over the place. His giant art books, his little books about, I don't know, history and maybe some like 1800s fiction. Bet there's a copy of, I don't know, like Goethe in there somewhere. Yeah, he's a well-read man. He spends all of his time alone, so he's reading all the time, right? Front of the house, you see I put this little gate. I really like this gate. I found it in the live edit objects. Unfortunately, because it is live edit, your Sims will just walk right through it, like it's not even there. So, I mean, it works. You know, I play tested it, and he'll walk right through it to get into the house, but he'll like clip through it. It won't open or anything. But you know, whatever. I thought it was nice. You can get rid of it if you want, but I thought it was cool. So, adding some more art in the house. Like I said, first floor is gonna be covered in paintings. I finally got to use those absolutely ridiculous paintings from base game of the cats like playing jazz music. I love those. I didn't know what else to do with them, so I popped them in the living room. I don't know if I mentioned this. This game, this build is base game only. I have the base game. I have the city expansion pack. What's it, city living? And I have get to work. I don't have any stuff packs. I don't have any more expansion packs. My computer's really old. I'm broke. I can't afford them. So I figured work with what you got. All I got really is base game stuff. I figured there was no point in putting any like city living stuff in here. Keep it accessible to people who only have the base game. I know the base game's like cheap as hell right now because everyone else is in quarantine and they need things to do. So if you want to pick up the base game for $5 or whatever it is right now in Origin and download my house, you don't need anything else. I'm not gonna ask you to spend $60 on island living to live in a Victorian house. You don't need that. You just need the base game. So yeah, base game only build. I think from now on, I mean, if I'm gonna do any of these things, any more of these things, they'll likely be base game only or single pack builds. If I ever buy any more of the packs, we'll see. I really want the Realm of Magic one. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really like gameplay. I don't ever play the game. Like, I get super bored with their lives. You know, I send a sim to work and I'm like, what do I do now? Like, I could just go to actual work in real life. And like, so, I mean, I don't, you know, live mode is whatever, but I am super interested in building some of those spellcaster sims. That sounds like fun. Especially because they have like 4 different types, right? There's like the herbalist one and there's like bad spellcasters and good spellcasters. It just seems like fun, you know? I love all that stuff. I love that magic stuff. So now you see them doing second floor plan. Second floor plan, it's like a little unconventional. I don't have like a single hallway that you can access every room through. There are a couple rooms, namely the master bedroom and the study, that are only accessible through other rooms, which I know is like, I mean, I think it's kind of like, it's a faux pas, you know. You're not gonna really want to do that in like an actual house. You don't have to be walking through other people's bedrooms to get to yours or to like other parts of the house. But I figured because this house is built for a very sort of, you know, what's the word? Lonely, sort of like, you know, morose sim, someone who likes to be alone all the time, that this space would be very much catered to him. He doesn't live with anybody else except for Helma, maybe. So there wasn't really a need for me to be thinking about other people walking around this house. If he has to go through his own bedroom to get to his study, that's fine. And honestly, I think that actually is kind of cool. That makes the whole, like, you know, office, bedroom, study complex like one big, large, L-shaped Hans Rudolph section of the house. It's all for him. It's just his part of the house. So, I mean, I kind of like it. You know, you have to go through a couple rooms to get to the others, but honestly, it's fine. You see here, this is the second floor landing. I covered this thing in those gnomes. I love those gnomes. They're ridiculous. I don't know why they're in the game. I don't understand the Sims, like, developers' obsession with gnomes. But they're super fun. And, like, I would never put them in a normal person's build. If I was, like, building a house for, like, an actual sim I was going to play the game with, I would never freaking put, like, 8 gnome statues. They're ridiculous. I would put a single gnome statue. They're super weird. But I figured, Hans Rudolph, right? He loves art of all kinds. Maybe he loves sculpture. Maybe gnome sculpture is, like, a genre of sculpture that he particularly loves. Yeah, I figured he's, like, European. You know, gnomes are European, right? Sure, right? Yeah, why not? So I cover the thing in gnomes. This right here is a study. This is definitely my favorite space in the house. It is so dark and like so the dark wood all over the place, the dark wood of the walls and the floors and that sort of built-in thing that I did with the bookshelves and the fireplace and the counters. I think it's awesome. It just feels, this room definitely gets that like sort of claustrophobic and tight feeling that I was hoping for, but more importantly, I just think it'd be like a lovely place to sit and read, right? Like right under the light of those lamps. You got your giant art books. You got some of those fancy pearls sitting on the desk, right? Maybe he collects jewelry too. I don't know. He loves art in all of its forms. It's just be like a really, really wonderful place to get some real good reading done, right? Somewhere on the big leather couch, somewhere dark. I put those tomes there, those sort of leather-bound books. Those are awesome. So now I'm going to move over to the other side of the little Hans Rudolph sector of the house. I'm going to build his, I guess this is more of the study. The other thing I guess I would call more like a library. Or you can call this part the office. I use a lot of the items that you unlock when you do, what is it, like level 10 of the executive career? Is it maybe journalist? I don't remember. But I like them. That desk and that really, really big like leather swivel chair, they make him look like a freaking bank CEO. I think it's awesome. I don't imagine that he does a lot of work here, but I think if you wanted to build your own family and have a nice little home office, this would be a really good one. Or you could even convert that into a third bedroom, or a sitting room for the master bedroom. You can do whatever you want with that space. But I really, really liked the built-in thing in the back with the thinner bookshelves, and I used those those like thin end tables. What do you call those? There's got to be a word for those really thin tables. I don't know what it is. And then I'm just going to start scattering like books all over the place, pens, that little notebook that is on the desk. I like to imagine that in sort of like the dark hours of the night, he crawls out of bed and sneaks over to his desk, and he starts furiously writing letters to Helma, who he loves so much, confessing, things from his past, or, writing just love letters to her and his dearly departed. I don't know. So here we have, I think maybe this is my favorite part of the house. I love this little balcony. This balcony, it's only like, I don't know, 3 tiles, but it's right off the study or the office or whatever you want to call it. And it's got a really nice little view of the rest of the neighborhood. And I imagine just like sitting out there, drinking iced tea, like reading a book. You can feel the breeze around you. You can see the vines, like feel the sun. I just feel like it'd be a really, really lovely space. At my mom's place, there's like a little balcony like that. Really, really tiny. All you can really fit there is like a chair and maybe a table, but it's a really wonderful place to just hang out and read and be quiet and like take in like slowness. It's so good. Now you see I'm adding some more curtains. Green, again. Like I said, green's that accent color. I think I put curtains on most of the windows in this house because I really, really want it to be like insular, really sort of, withdrawn and self-contained. I didn't want anyone to be able to peek in the rooms or anything, right? This guy's super, super private. He's a really private person. So I put, a lot of curtains all over the walls so you can't see into his little private world. And now I'm working on his bedroom. Bedroom's pretty simple. Like I said, a lot of the rooms in this house are pretty small, so I didn't have a lot of room to put a lot of stuff, but I did manage to put a nice little double bed. Nothing too extravagant. I didn't want him to be, I didn't want his like wealth to be very gaudy. I imagine that he spends most of his money on art, not on like fancy ass beds. So I got that nice little kind of simple, country 4-post bed, that little mirror in the corner, a little place for him to hang up his clothes. And now I'm working on the second bedroom. So the second bedroom, I did out of necessity. The sort of like the canon, for this build as I was doing it was that only one sim lived here. But I did think it would be absolutely ridiculous for a house of this size to only have one bedroom. And you're not necessarily going to want to play with the sim that I designed this house for. You're going to want maybe to move in your own family. It would be ridiculous to only have one bedroom. So I built another one. That other bedroom is really super simple, but I was able to use that I love that green dresser, that like deep green dresser. That was the green that I was imagining as an accent piece for this whole house. It's so good. It's gorgeous. I think it's really, really pretty. So I was really happy to fit that in there. You will also see in this bedroom the only TV in the entire house. I like to imagine that Hans Rudolf likes it very quiet. There are 2 little the like old-timey speakers, the one that look like gramophones or phonographs or whatever they're called. I don't know. I got 2 of those. Those are nice. But those are the only ones that I put in the house. And there's only one TV, and that's that tiny TV with the little antenna. I want it to look super dated, honestly. Like, he's not gonna buy like a flat screen. This dude like doesn't care about watching TV. He doesn't even watch movies. All he does is just sit around and like read his old art books and look at his gnomes and write letters to his dead wife. So there's one TV in the house, which is, I think that's fine. If you want to pop some more TVs, there's definitely some space that you can do that. Here is the first bathroom, the one off the sort of second, not the master bedroom, the auxiliary bedroom. This is a super tight space. I did have to squeeze the toilet into the corner, but when I was playtesting, Hans Rudolf was able to use that shower. He sort of like shimmied his way in, and so the entire space is functional, even though it is pretty small, which is fine. And then we have here the second bathroom, and this is all about clawfoot tub. When I knew that I wanted this build to have a clawfoot tub. He can soak in his bath, think about art, think about Russian icons, whatever. Yeah, had to have a tub. The layout for this bathroom does change, and you're not going to see it change. You'll see it for the screenshots, but you're not going to see it in this video. That's because when I was playtesting, he tried to use the bathtub, and the counters were in the way. No matter how I put the bathtub, no matter how I oriented it, I couldn't do it with the counters on that side of the wall. So I did move the counters to the other side of the wall, so everything's sort of in a line. Now you see I'm working on this sort of attic space up here, this third floor. Attic space I wanted to be significantly, like, noticeably more simple than the rest of the house. It's just storage. I don't know if you guys live in sort of old houses, but I feel like nobody is going to be using the attic space for living. You could theoretically, I mean, there's actually a pretty good amount of space up there. You could theoretically put some more bedrooms and living areas up there, but I wanted it more to be like an unfinished basement, right? So I changed the wood to that sort of like the one that looks worse. and I thought about changing the walls, but I actually really liked that sort of wood paneling. And then I just stuffed it with sort of clutter items. I put all those painting sort of, that big painting rack up in the corner. I put some canvases, some other paintings, like they were leaned up against the wall, maybe some stuff that he brought from Germany that he decided he didn't want to hang up in his house. Now what you're going to see is I'm going to work on this back room. This back room is the secret of the house. Like I said, Helma, she's the big mystery, right? Does she live here? We don't know. What actually is the sitch is this bedroom. Oh, well, there, I just gave it away. This room is Helma's bedroom. Helma is not alive. Helma is dead. She's been dead for like 20 years. But there's a bed and there's a little chest that I imagine just like full of her old dresses. There are old books I scattered around. I imagine those were like picture albums. And what Hans Rudolf does is he goes up there and he lies down in bed and he speaks to himself in Helma's voice, right? I imagine just sort of like Alfred Hitchcock kind of thing, where he crawls up there and he speaks to himself as if she were still alive. And so when people walk past the house and they claim they can hear Helma's voice, they hear the voice of like an old German woman. They know old German woman lives in the house. It's actually Hans speaking to himself as his wife, right? It's pretty sad. Honestly, that's like a really sad story. But I mean, that's what I wanted for this house. I wanted him to be this sort of like recluse who misses his dead wife, and so he sort of conjures this alternative, existence for her, and he pretends to be her, So that bedroom up there is Helma's room. You'll see on the gallery, if you go to download this, I did list this house as having 3 bedrooms, which is like, it's not deceptive because there are 3 bedrooms, but one of them is Helma's room. So if you want to download this house, you might want to change that bedroom upstairs to like a normal functioning bedroom for not a dead German woman. Or just recognize that when you're downloading it, like there are 2 real bedrooms. There are actually 3 bedrooms, but there are 2 like actual bedrooms. Now you see I'm working on the backyard. I picked this tiny lot. I maybe sort of wish I had a bigger lot, but Hans Rudolf doesn't leave his house. He doesn't have anyone over, so he didn't need a big backyard. I really, really like this little backyard. I imagine that because he is an art collector, that he would have not only paintings but also sculptures, and there wasn't a lot of space in his sort of cluttered, cramped house for sculpture, so I decided to make a little sculpture garden. You'll see I put this little stone trail. I put, these little sculptures, that statue right there, the ballerina, that fish fountain, which will be gone in like 30 seconds. I put a little gravestone in the back. There's a little, maybe that's Helma. I put another gnome, gotta have another gnome, right? And then, that's the sculpture garden. And now I'm gonna start putting out some of the lights, and then I think we're done. That's kind of it. So, thanks for watching this first video. Pretty cool. Can't believe I actually did this. I got tons of time now on my hands, so maybe I'll build some more. You never know. We're gonna skirt into the screenshots right about now, and hope you watch the next video. Have a good day.